Bad student. Where then are we supposed to learn about the human spirit in our youth when we're first discovering it? Who sits us down and says, "Hey, little Jimmy, this is how your emotions work"? Or, "Come on, little Leanne, let's teach you how your mind operates"? Since I was never given a satisfactory answer, I made up my own. To me, the human spirit appeared to be the coupling of the mind and emotions. It was and is the framework I use to interpret the world around me and the modes through which I inhabit it. I thrust myself deeper into my inner being to improve who I was building within, a task I had prepared for already by developing the multiple dimensions of my bubbles and suits. This process was made a bit more difficult because in the middle of this internal work, my parents uprooted my family from New Jersey to Alabama. It was a cultural shock, to say the least. In fourth grade, I discovered willpower, or rather, I created my symbolic image of willpower in the form of a giant red hammer. I named it Simon after the game Simon Says, picturing myself wielding the hammer and convincing the world to do what I said. Sometime around this period, I also acquired a literal hammer, a 5-pound steelhead type like carpenters used. I also called it Simon. It gave me something physical to hold onto as I grew into my own abilities. Many kids go through such phases where they concoct fantasies of power. Mine just took a specific form. I created Simon not because I wanted to control everybody, but quite the reverse. I perceived that others had wills of their own that constrained me or put expectations upon me, or otherwise frustrated me and made my life difficult. With Simon in hand, I tried to pound out the tools and weapons of my psyche that I could use to get my needs met in a world that wasn't eager to help me out. I felt like an inventor, fashioning prototypes and then testing and retesting them, checking for wear and tear, flexibility and efficiency, and so on. My goal was simple: to level up my bubbles and suits. Through a vigorous string of trials, case studies, live fire exercise, and catastrophic failures, I crafted kind of a personal operating system. There were 3 core processes. The first I named the flames. Flames was basically kept a group of bubbles burning at the ready. The second I dubbed puzzling, which was essentially rotation thinking. Puzzling was how I sorted through the bubbles within the flames and tried to find a solution to my problems. The third process I called churning. Churning is difficult to describe. It was a way to establish emotional connections between the flames and my puzzling. Churning was like a gyroscope that kept me in balance within myself and also kept my spirit in motion. I began to organize my suits too. Nowadays, you'd recognize what I was doing as customizing an avatar in a video game. In some games, you have a whole team of heroes that you can design and upgrade over time. That's very similar to what I was doing as a child. I began with a blank avatar of myself, and I began to change features to fashion a particular character. I'd start with appearance, hair, wardrobe, and build, then move internally to their personalities, their desires, their mental paradigms, and their purpose. These weren't just apertures to look and feel through. I was creating ways of being me. Each suit was a part of me, and I was the collective sum of them all. With each one I created, I grew as a person, became more than I had been. I'm sure I often looked very weird as a kid to people because I constantly flipped through my suits, and with each suit came a different way of talking, acting, and different moods. Picture Robin Williams bouncing from character to character, only not nearly so romantic. Some people change their clothes several times a day. I changed my demeanor. Just as you would think it crazy to wear the same set of garments every day for years on end, I thought it was crazy to go through life with only one approach. At the same time, I was aware that my ability to don different suits gave me advantage over my peers. In school, kids sorted themselves into groups more or less and stayed there. Goth kids dressed goths, skaters skated, prep bros prepped out with preps, and on and on. I moved within several different peer groups without feeling any real conflict. I didn't concern myself so much with external dress, but my internal, choosing the suit that would best complement that group. I may have looked like an outsider, but I was received as an ally, if not necessarily an inner circle member. Unlocking these various aspects of myself grew my world, and this, in turn, facilitated the growth of my mind and emotions. It was very much a virtuous cycle. I learned something from all my friends, who they were as individuals. I would recreate them within myself and find a version of me that was impacted by that person. Later, I would see this as a practice in empathy, seeking to understand their experience of the world. The work I did with my suits and bubbles was exercising my thoughts and my feelings, much as an athlete exercises their bodies. Other kids probably did a form of this through games they played together or reading novels, but my way was methodical, almost scientific. I would take a suit, play out a scene, roll everything back, and try it again with another suit, and see how things turned out. Eventually, I tailored the suits to become more sophisticated, and I developed so many that I started needing names. I named them after anything: people, animal, imaginary creatures, whatever. They became like little personalities with their own mental and emotional programming. They were all parts of me, but they were different parts of me in specific combinations that I learned were useful for succeeding in school or making friends, or later getting a job. They were also akin to rehearsal and character techniques that actors go through to develop themselves for performance. Your mind constructs the framework, and your emotions provide the energy to move the character, you.